Oh, we're late.
Good. All right, good evening. This is City Council meeting, 6 p.m. Tuesday, October 24th. I'd like to call the meeting to order and acknowledge that the press and public were duly notified of the meeting in accordance with the Freedom of Information Act. If you please join me in standing for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Father, what a glorious day you gave us today. Thank you for the beauty of it. Thank you for the beauty of where we get to call home. Thank you for the opportunity to serve this great community. Just pray that you will guide our conversations and decisions that happen here tonight. Father, pray especially for the family of Wayne Mosley in his passing earlier this week. Just what a great business and community leader for so many years here on this island. Just pray that you'll be with his wife, Betsy, their daughters and extended family. Just provide them comfort and care during this time period. In your name I pray. Amen. Amen. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Nicole, roll call.
Councilmember Goshen?
Here.
Councilmember Hahn?
Here.
Councilmember Myers?
Here.
Councilmember Ward?
Here.
Councilmember Streetman?
Here.
Councilmember Popson?
Here.
Councilmember Anderson?
Here.
Councilmember Pierce?
Here.
Mayor Pounds?
Here.
You have a quorum?
Thank you. We're going to start off tonight a little bit different with special presentations. We have a presentation of the Spirit of the Island Award for Susan Hill Smith. Susan, you want to come up and bring anybody that you want with you? You can bring the whole crowd if you want. So before we get going, and I've got just a couple of comments, and then Susan, I think you want to make some comments as well. One of the beauties, goodness, badness, or whatever is you learn things about people when you go to the same church. So Susan recently had a birthday, so why don't we start the night with a little happy birthday singing for Susan. All right, ready? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you, to you. Happy birthday, dear Susan. Happy birthday to you. Susan, you may never come back to Chambers. It all works. So real quick, just a reminder, the Spirit of the Island Award, suggested by Jimmy Ward a few years ago, is a prestigious award that recognizes an individual or an organization that has made significant contributions to the life and well-being of the Isle of Palms. This award will recognize an individual or organization's remarkable single achievement or community service and volunteerism. A resident recently nominated Susan Hill Smith, which was approved by the Administration Committee, as well as City Council, but in typical Susan Hill Smith fashion, she wanted us to recognize the larger IOP cleanup crew. So first, let me just read the resident nomination form that was submitted by our resident. Isle of Palms' most valuable asset is our beach, and no one on this island protects our treasured resource better than Susan Hill Smith and the cleanup crew. I've been walking on Front Beach daily for many years. Prior to Susan's cleanup campaign, our beach and our coastal wildlife were in peril. Thanks to Susan's steadfast efforts, our island's treasures are being protected. No one exemplifies the spirit of IOP more than Susan Hill Smith, and this was submitted by Sarah Parker. So now just a few comments about our cleanup crew. They use volunteer power to keep the coast clean, protect natural ecosystems and public health, document litter data, help solve the pollution crisis. Since the summer of 2018, they have collected and documented 170,000 litter items with the support from the South Carolina Aquariums Conservation Team and their litter journal. They have engaged thousands of volunteers from IOP and throughout the Low Country and currently hold more than 40 litter cleanups a year. To Susan and the broader IOP cleanup crew, many of whom are here tonight, obviously, on behalf of the city and this city council, thank you for your efforts to protect our most valuable asset.
And thank you to the city and the council for this recognition and for spotlighting the need to find solutions for the litter and pollution crisis and for protecting the beauty of our island. This honor is really about the Isle of Palms cleanup crew, which has always been a group effort. And there are important people that I would like to fold into this recognition. A lot of them are up here. First, co-founder Katrina Limbach. Her creative spark, her hard work, and the synergy that we've had together have been critical to Isle of Palm cleanup crew's success. Thank you to City Administrator Desiree Fregosa for connecting the two of us in 2018. Without that introduction, Isle of Palm's cleanup crew would not be what it is today. The South Carolina Aquarium's conservation team, especially Kelly Thorvalson and Linda Rowe, have been supporting and guiding us since our very first litter sweep. Islander Rebecca Stevenson is not here tonight, but she has involved her family since the early days, and Howard Hogue, otherwise known as Beach Santa, which I think everybody can see who I'm talking about, is legendary for cleaning up litter on Isle of Palms. In fact, he was doing it before we even got going at Isle of Palms cleanup crew. So, and he does this around the Low Country. So, Rebecca and Howard are now wonderful members of our welcome team. Shout out to Paula Kennedy and Team Blue from South Carolina Federal Credit Union. They have faithfully shown up for us through their employee volunteer program in many ways. Shout outs also to all the island businesses we have engaged as sponsors since 2018. I wish I had time to list them all, but I will mention that Windjammer and Acme Low Country Kitchen have supported us since the very start. I cannot leave out the thousands of volunteers from across the Low Country and beyond who have joined us, and all the other people who clean up on their own time. For some, including Sarah Parker Daniel, I'm not sure if she's here tonight, the one who nominated me for this recognition. It's part of their regular routine to clean up at the beach, and it's something they do nearly every day. So if you pick up litter on the island, you are a member of Isle of Palms cleanup crew, and this recognition is for all of you as well. So thank you.
Sue's get in front and everybody climbing around her, people down the road.
I'm sorry, I should also thank my husband and my family for supporting.
About 150 pictures.
Come on, let's get some people in front, get down your knees. Tighter. Do the sporty one, Susan. There it is. Right here. Right here. Stand up, Susan, you look kind of weird. There you go.
Only Nick could get away
There
with
you go.
that. Yeah.
How are you doing?
Thank you, Howard.
Yep.
Good to see you.
I had 2 heart surgeries this year.
You look good. Susan, thank you for coordinating everybody to get here tonight. Very much appreciate that. So, very good. Next item is citizens' comments. We just have a quick reminder, knowing we're in the throes of election season and emotions may be heightened. I would just ask our speakers to be sure they keep their comments directed at the full council and not an individual council member. So, Nicole?
Randy Bell.
Well, I'm hoping this is my last time here, and I don't want this to be intended as directed at a council member, but at this entire council for what we've witnessed recently. So thankfully, this election will soon be over. And I'm asking that this document that I'm providing to council be put into the public record. Obviously, folks know where I stand on the issue of STR limitations. The attempts to confuse and divide this community are beyond belief. And yet the source of community division is sitting up here behind the dais. On February 28th, 5 members of this council voted to stop any and all conversation related to this issue and for any further debate. What 5 of you failed to understand was just how determined your constituents were. And you did not believe that this community would be able to gather almost 1,200 resident signatures. We will now be heard, yes or no, on November 7th. And again, I'm going to apologize, but I'm not going to thwart the comment. 0 contributions are from any outside group or commercial interest in the efforts for the yes vote. And Councilman Ward has publicly posted that we have.
Randy,
Well, you know what?
if you're making the comments public, they'll be in the record.
Comment will be included in the record. It's
fine.
Thank you. I cannot believe the behavior of some of these council members, so let's make a broad comment, talk about more than one. This is a desperate attempt in accusatory postings to defame members that are on council and people that are running for council, and it is unacceptable to this community. What happened to the unanimously passed code of conduct that stated acceptable use of social media and a level of respect and dignity to all? It would appear that its selective application only applies to Councilmember Myers.
Excuse me,
I've yet
Mr.
to
Mayor,
hear-
point of order.
Yep.
Named councilperson in the statement.
What do you want me to do, retract that? It's fact.
Yes. You're not supposed to use this podium for that.
That is absolutely, I sat up there and I understand the rules as well as anybody, so I'll continue. Thank you. Mayor, this requires leadership, and that's on you. The code of conduct was adopted by everybody sitting up here. It has not been enforced, and it has not been applied equally across this council. And frankly, this community deserves better. And I don't care who's sitting up here, win, lose, or draw in this election, this community deserves better, and they expect you to treat each other with respect and dignity. Thank you.
Laura Levens.
Good evening. Laura Levens, 5 Links Clubhouse Court. I think most of us have heard the expression, there are 2 sides to every story. In the musical Fiddler on the Roof, Tevye, the beleaguered father of daughters, trying to decide how to handle them wanting to marry in non-traditional ways, talked his way through the options on the one hand, on the other hand. But to say that there are 2 sides to every story, you would have to assume that both sides are dealing with facts. Unfortunately for the Isle of Palms residents, they are being given inaccurate and even convoluted information by one side of the argument. To produce signs that say vote no to preserve our neighborhoods is a complete oxymoron. Voting no will not allow our neighborhoods to remain residential. They will create commercial districts and will destroy them. To say that if we pass the referendum, city revenue will suffer and your property taxes will go up, it's also a falsehood and a scare tactic. The referendum will not reduce any existing STRs. Our city revenue is very healthy. Our property taxes are some of the lowest in the state, as Councilmember Ward pointed out at last night's candidate forum. So how would keeping the status quo on STRs negatively affect city revenue and property taxes? The other side says that limiting STRs will negatively impact our city businesses. Again, another falsehood. In case you all don't remember, there is a new 153-room hotel in Wild Dunes called the Sweetgrass Inn that is generating thousands of new tourists annually. In fact, they are currently booked with events through January of next year. Does the other side think that these people do not shop, eat, and spend money on the Isle of Palms? Do they think they are not helping our local businesses? And by the way, Blow and Coral Tree are becoming part of Hyatt's new upcoming short-term rental platform, Homes and Hideaways by World Hyatt. So stay tuned to what will be coming to Wild Dunes. The other side has suggested that 1,173 people who signed the STR petition did not know what they were doing. I'm stunned at the level of absurdity of that allegation. I personally walk neighborhoods in Wild Dunes and get signatures for the petition, and I will attest to the fact that everyone was given access to read the petition, ask questions, and if there were any concerns, we tried to help answer them, and if they didn't want to sign the petition, they did not. Everyone who signed the petition believed 100% in what it was intended to do. We have 4 candidates that care about the facts of not only our current STR issues, but of all the issues. Livability, reducing the impact of tourism on residents, infrastructure needs, and preserving IOP as a family-friendly neighborhood community.
Ms. Levens.
Their side of the story is the one that Isle of Palms residents and voters need to listen to. Thank you.
Julie Nessler.
Julie Essler, 1722nd, been a resident here since 2004. You can't hear me? No. Okay. I'm not talking about short-term rental, okay? I want you to remember a name. The name is Mateo Lopez. He was a young father of 2 that drowned 10 feet off of a dock. People on the dock saw him struggling, but couldn't get to him because they didn't know how to swim. There was nothing on the dock to aid his rescue. This was October 5th of 2022. Witness to this from his own backyard was a kid named Cade Redman, 13 years old at the time. He had a hard time understanding how this could happen when so many people were around, if only there was something to assist him. This unfortunate tragedy sparked an idea in Cade. He started a campaign called the Devoted Float, an awareness and resource organization focused on the importance of installing dockside life-saving devices. Cade's campaign has partnered with the Qualified Captain, West Marine, law enforcement, fire departments, and even the U.S. Coast Guard, who is involved with spreading the message nationally. We have a city dock that does not have a life ring on it. We have a city dock that the residents and visitors are encouraged to enjoy its many offerings, but there is no life-saving device. 1 in 7 related deaths are due to drownings. 4,000 deaths a year are due to drowning. I wonder if there was a life-saving device on that dock that day, that dreadful day, if Mateo Lopez would still be here. I love this island, and in the spirit of safety for our community, my family is donating a life ring to the city for our dock to be installed tonight, tomorrow, as soon as possible, because drownings don't wait for a convenient time to happen. We dedicate it to our Isle of Palms firefighters and our police officers because they face these tragedies every day, putting their life at risk for our safety. In closing, Mayor Pounds, if you will allow me, I would like to approach and present all of my findings, all of my stats, all of the literature, and the life ring to Councilman Ward, who is the Public Safety Chair. And may we all be safe on the water.
Thank you.
Thank you. May I?
Sure.
Thank you.
Thank you. Put it right there.
Thank you, Julie.
Gary Nessler.
That is a hard act to follow. But I'll do my best. All I can say is good job, honey. At least I'm sleeping in the bed tonight. I'm here tonight to talk about a myriad of questions, contradictions, and big concerns that beg for clarity and action. It's about money, resources, and integrity. Our city council boasts we have a $1.2 million surplus, $200,000 a month in interest, and $41 million in the bank. yet some council members say that we're operating at a deficit. Ms. Hamilton was here. Thank you for reminding them our city cannot operate at a deficit. So what's the truth? And as somebody said earlier, with so much divisiveness, residents don't know who to believe or what to believe. And city council members spew out numbers at an Indy 500 pace to impress constituents is simply disingenuous. And this misinformation does have unintended consequences. Sleight of hand techniques are downright despicable. If you listen to the most recent special council meeting, where City Administrator Fregoso finally substantiated after years of being told our public safety personnel are paid below average by $10,000 to $15,000 per year as compared to our surrounding communities. And that certainly flies in the face of the assertion that pay was enough, not their package. Again, it wasn't the question. Pay is an issue for our public safety personnel. And I know this because I volunteered my time for close to 2 decades as a captain in our fire department, serving beside these men and women who are the bloodline to our safety and security. Mind you, the volunteer firefighting program, unfortunately, has been discontinued. It appears to me that the number may actually now be close to 21.5% raise for all of our public safety personnel at this time. You expect them to be above average. Now it's time to show true leadership and do something about it, because you are risking our lives as much as you are risking theirs. And if you don't understand their pay scale, then why don't you go over and ask them? We have a First Amendment right to ask, and they have a First Amendment right to respond. And retaliation and repression shall not be tolerated. And how can our public safety leadership propose the formation of elite response teams? And no, Sandy, unfortunately, is not just a mascot. She's very well trained. And while other certain council members continue the rhetoric that they get paid enough, departments are fully staffed, and that's despite the persistent vacancies. Again, simply not true and dangerously misleading. That's a sure mandate for failure. And one other thing that needs to be brought to light that deserves a full investigation: the sharing of non-public and confidential documents, potentially personnel and financial records, with select citizens and former council members, which then get displayed on social media and affords behind closed doors face-to-face meetings with our city administration. This raises serious concerns about breach of public trust, abuse of power, and challenges the very integrity of our city governance. It may actually prove to be unlawful, but we'll let the other authorities determine that when the time comes, and remind you that your office is supposed to avoid political theatrics, but meanwhile, you're all in the middle of it. Let me remind you, finally,
Hassler.
I have one more paragraph, if you don't mind. Let me remind you, our council, as well as our city administrator, work for us. They're supposed to be nonpartisan and act as our voice in our community, ensuring that the decisions align with public interests. In conclusion, we must remember that silence in the face of these absurd antics is complicity. We, the citizens, are stakeholders and not pawns in a theatrical saga or a Shakespearean tragedy. Speak up or speak out, or our voices shall never be overshadowed by bureaucratic collusion or threats of retaliation. I, for one, I am a taxpayer, and I'm saying no. No more of this. Not now, not ever, not on my island. And if you're not up for the job, then just simply resign. Thank you.
Bravo.
Thank you, Mayor Pound, for standing my time.
Les Kutcher.
My name is Les Kutcher. I live at 9 Ocean Point Drive. Full disclosure, I am a sitting director on the WDCA board. My comments and concerns today, however, are mine and mine alone. They do not reflect the positions or opinions of the WDCA board or of the Wild Dunes Resort. My first comment has to do with my particular disdain for spin or manipulation of the facts for no purpose other than to obscure, confuse, and disturb. Those of us who are full-time residents and registered voters and who support the referendum that imposes a fair and reasonable cap on STRs have been labeled a special interest group by those who oppose any STR cap. Those that so stridently oppose the cap are, for the most part, well-funded, deep-pocketed commercial entities that include but are not limited to IOP Chamber of Commerce, CTAR, Isle of Palms United, Isle of Palms Nation, and the Wild Dunes Resort. These commercial interests all benefit directly and significantly from revenues generated by STRs. They are clearly not motivated by such quality of life considerations as traffic, congestion, safety, noise, or preservation of the environment. Those that support a cap, such as Preserve IOP and Silent Majority IOP, are constituted entirely by Isle of Palms homeowners of all owner classes and are funded by volunteer contributions from individuals who live and own homes on the Isle of Palms. Candidates Scott Pierce, Elizabeth Campson, Tim Amudi, and Brian Duffy,
Mayor.
all of whom support a cap, are themselves self-funded. Not a dime
Mr.
is
Mayor.
generated by any
Point
of
of order.
these.
Excuse me. Point of order.
Yes.
I don't believe you're supposed to be citing names in this.
I thought I'm not supposed to be citing your names.
We're getting campaign ads.
How much time do we have left?
Minute?
I would ask that the clock be reset,
That's not up to me.
please. As I said, candidates Scott Pierce, Elizabeth Campson, Tim Amudi, and Brian Duffy, all of whom support a cap, are themselves self-funded. Not a dime is generated by any of these organizations or candidates from any commercial interest. How can such a grassroots effort, entirely funded by locally residing individuals, be labeled special interest? In fact, those that profit from STRs and do not live, vote, or own homes on Isle of Palms are indeed the special interest. I will not endeavor at this time to refute the weary talking points shared by those that oppose the cap. Laura Lovins, Preserve IOP, and Silent Majority IOP have all thoroughly and honestly addressed these talking points. What I will say is that these talking points are a testament to the adage, often put to practical use by those who wish to cling to power, control, or the status quo. If you keep them uninformed and afraid, they will follow you anywhere. As long as we're on the topic of spin, I'd like to congratulate, as Laura said, the author of those street signs, asking voters to preserve our neighborhood by voting no on the referendum.
Mr. Kutcher,
You
I've
have
given you extra
successfully-
time. I've given you extra time. Please wrap up your comments.
What do
I gave you extra time. Could you please wrap up your comments?
Yes.
Thank you.
You have successfully pushed the limits of what is believable to a heretofore unimagined height. Finally, I have a question for Mayor Pounds and the council. On the Support Wild Dunes Resort website, there is a long paragraph detailing that though they are in the middle of a litigation, they are supposed to have a mediation proceedings, and we have not responded. In response, it has been learned from city administration that no scheduling order is in place and that no mediation deadline exists. I would ask, can you please address this obvious and troubling inconsistency? I expect you will say you are unable to discuss ongoing litigation, but the resort obviously does not feel similarly encumbered. Thank you.
Mr. Klaus?
Al Klaus, 3 Grand Pavilion, meeting number 26 since 4/13 of 22 regarding noise ordinance and nuisance, requesting for the 18th time to provide us written assurances regarding enforcement of Section 925 BC. Amplified music from Sweetgrass has resulted into a nuisance which is being perpetrated by the city as a result of not enforcing the ordinance. Regarding the livability statistics report, constructively, we would like to see a number of detailed footnotes on the bottom of said report regarding definitions and column explanations. We are not writing to our audience, we are writing to ourselves. All of you are fully apprised of the White Wedding event at Sweetgrass Event Center this past Friday. Based on our documentation, this is the epitome of a nuisance. How does someone with this behavior keep their license? Called the police beginning at 7:48 p.m., continuing until 11:37 p.m. for a total of 7 times. 3 officers, very polite, rang our door around 8:15. They informed us they had issued a citation. While talking on our porch for a few minutes, the noise continuing. They stated the noise was too loud. They were going back and issue another citation. Hooping and hollering continued until 1:16 a.m. All the above resulted in one citation. Is this enforcement? Is this livability? Now, we know why the Empire has not responded to our Back to the Future proposal. For the first time since November 22, we are increasing our denominator from 5 to 6 narratives. Since we are living in the official rumor mill capital of the world, we have been strongly encouraged to reiterate the following. We purchased Lot 1 in the Grand Pavilion in 1988 based on a title issue, orchestrated a like-kind exchange for Lot 3 in 1991, moved from Indiana to South Carolina in 2013, executed a building contract in early 2017, received a certificate of occupancy on 12/31/18, our personal residence. The math. 36 years of uninterrupted ownership in IOP, 30 years at 6%, 6 years at 4%. Rumor mill CEO, please delete our account. Final point, we are not entitled. Our livability cannot be a derivative based on years of ownership, whether 36 years or 36 days. One's livability needs to be equal for all. The crows were nowhere to be heard last Friday night. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Johnson?
Thank the council and speaking tonight. I'm Gerald Johnson, 3102 Cameron Boulevard. I'm a 52-year resident on the island and possibly older than most of the people in this room. I've been around, I've seen a lot, and there's been a lot of things happen. Integrity of this, of our council and our people that I see in the past that, you know, the people gets on and everything, and we go back and forth and one thing and another. Some of the things that happen, I think all of this and the citizens and everything, y'all.
Speak right into the
Talking
microphone.
to the mic, please.
All of you and everything. And we used to have a saying around here, newcomers, when you came here and you wanted to live on this beautiful island, but you wanted to change it. Also, you know, everything that we've seen, municipalities, I've heard a lot saying that, you know, the Isle of Palms, everybody else has got it. Why do we have to have it? I mean, why don't we stand alone? There's a need to be more unity in the community. It seems like that when we have issues in this island, I've never seen more things get beat. They beat the dead dog to death that y'all can carry on and don't sit down. I feel that we are not communicating and some things are not being enough to stand up and sit down one-on-one. We got people here and people there, and you sit down on a person with your integrity and sit there and talk them and iron it out. In my opinion, the cap is not the answer to this situation, but short-term rental. You take all the property owners, the people that own these, and that. If whatever you do or whatever comes out of it, you're going to have somebody getting effect on it. I look at it from a standpoint that if you cap it, you are telling me or telling somebody that owns land I can't do and do what I want with it, and if I want to rent it. So let's take it and say you're not a resident, you're a property owner. Let's get the word out to everybody and let everybody come in and put an opinion and sit down like human beings and quit fighting about it and come up to a solution. And then we can all live in unity and be a good neighbor and respect everybody's opinion. Thank you.
Kevin Cunane?
Good evening, Mayor, Council, and citizens. I was asked to speak by some local responders as well as citizens here in the IOP. Our first responders need proper staffing, equipment, and pay, not just accolades. Firefighter staffing is measured by a minimum standard called NFPA 1710. IOP does not meet the standard, and neither does its nearest backups in the mutual aid system. Mutual aid is not a primary response strategy. It is a backup for major events and multiple incidents simultaneously. Recently, the IOP ladder truck responded as second ladder to Dunes West in Mount Pleasant for a fire. Thank you for that. But look at the travel time and ask if your family was waiting to be rescued. Would you want the ladder coming from Dunes West? It's 11 miles away and about 23-minute response time, best case scenario. In a situation where seconds count, that is an eternity. Now, pay for first responders has a critical impact upon the retention and skill level of your responders. Low pay leads to retention problems and constantly training new employees, impacting morale and efficiency of your emergency services, both police and fire. How has responder pay kept up with the increasing tax base and the budget? That's a question mark. I would ask that you please look into the history of horrific beach house fires, such as the one in 2007 in Ocean Isle, North Carolina, where 7 college students died. Being near the ocean brings higher winds, as we know, and faster fires. That's just a fact. Responders always step up and do the right thing. They make tremendous sacrifices for all of us, 24/7. The least our local governments can do is do right by them at budget time. Thank you.
Is that it? Thank you. Next item is approval of previous meetings minutes. We have the City Council meeting on September 26th, special joint City Council and Planning Commission meeting on September 26th, special City Council meeting on October 3rd, special City Council meeting on October 10th, special City Council workshop on October 10th, and the committee meeting minutes are attached.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Any edits, changes?
I did receive some edits from the mayor that have been made to the minutes of October 10th.
All right. Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. First item, old business, update on emergency beach restoration work between Breach Inlet and 314 Ocean Boulevard. Desiree, I know there's been weekly, if not more, emails to the residents, so just from a broader resident perspective, just an update on, I know everybody sees the equipment and sand and everything going down there.
Yes, well, for several weeks now, we have been working with Collins Construction, who've been deployed, again, for several weeks, pretty much since the last storm, Hurricane Idalia, came through. Our efforts continue. After City Council approved additional funds for additional beach erosion mitigation efforts, we've been pursuing our project in response to the action taken by Council at that time. Therefore, we've been trucking sand, beach-compatible sand, and our contractor continues to scrape sand from the beach and restoring the dune system and the dry sand beach. We're still waiting for actual numbers from our contractor to account for exactly how many cubic yards of sand have been placed so far. We understand the range would be between 25 and 30,000. The contractor continues. The sandbags, it took a little bit longer than anticipated for them to receive the sandbags. They received them late last week, and they've been filling them off-site. And they'll be bringing them in starting tomorrow. The area that has been approved by the Army, by OCRM for the placement of sandbags is the area between 120 and 206 Ocean. We've contacted those owners and kept them appraised of any progress update. We've also finalized the coordination of the public meeting that we'll have with the Army Corps of Engineers or coastal engineers to talk about the upcoming large project, beneficial use project, in coordination with the Corps, anticipated to start early next week. I'm sorry, early 2024, early next year, I'm sorry. And that meeting will be hosted on November 13th, 5 o'clock, and we'll do it at the Exchange Club. And we've sent out invitations to folks along the project area to attend.
Great. Questions?
Oh, we have also notified property owners about the emergency ordinance. We know of a handful of people who may be interested, and we're helping them understand what the ordinance says and the criteria that they would need to follow. So we're working with some people on that end.
Is that with regard to sandbags?
Yes, ma'am. This is in regards to the emergency ordinance, which would allow property owners to place sandbags 250 feet landward, oceanside from their property, outside of the OCRM's jurisdiction.
I was just trying to understand where 201 Ocean, you said? 120 to 201?
206.
206. So that's 5 lots then?
No,
It's not, I think it's 10.
10 lots that are getting sandbags, and those are the ones that meet the emergency threshold established by the state.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Desiree, thank you.
You're welcome.
New business, a couple of these we have talked about in some detail at our workshop, so we can move to vote unless there's more discussion. First one is consideration of final design of emergency vehicle access project at the IOP County Park, and that drawing was in your packet again. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve. Second.
Any other discussion or questions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next, item B, consideration of engaging Trident and McMillan as a design-build team for City Hall renovations. Again, you had the proposal in your packet from workshop and this packet as well.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Quick discussion on that. There was an option in there as well. Are we approving the 69, I think it was the 69,000, or are we approving that with the option or without the option?
Yes. Just as background, the scoring from the presentation indicated Trident and the McMillan team to have been selected essentially by the scoring. We have included a proposal in your packet that would involve the first phase of a potential project, which would include an assessment and recommendations. There's no design, there's no specifications. It's basically look at our building, understand what the needs are, and make some recommendations for the city. And I think the amount is $69,000.
But there's an alternate in here for an additional 10, I think. I'm just wondering, if are we approving the full or just the baseline?
So the alternate would only be needed if we were going to extend significantly outside of the footprint by more than 650 square feet. So there is a possibility that we would need it, so I think I would err on the side of
You'd ask for the 69 plus the 10.
And include it. I think there's a distinct possibility we won't need to spend that.
Okay, up to then or whatever.
But I would say.
Not to exceed.
Yeah, let's do that.
So there was some discussion on having both firms provide us with a little bit more information and a basic estimate for what they could do. Because in our meeting, one of the things that we discussed was the fact that it may not even work to do what we want to do to this building. It may turn out that our best option is to either do nothing or to get rid of the building and start over. And so I was hoping that we would have some discussion on that, of having the option of getting a number from both firms, because they were both groups of firms, because they were both very well qualified. And I feel like at this point, we're literally just kind of closing our eyes and pointing. And I mean, they're both great, so it's not like we're making a bad decision, but I just feel like it would be more beneficial if we had some numbers in front of us in order to make an informed decision.
Yes, so I would just respond that our code specifically keeps us from doing a competitive process with design work. This first stage is basically all design work. So I think the way we've done it is the way that's dictated by our code. We would have the option at subsequent stages to go out for a more competitive, we could do it competitively then. But at this stage, it's really just working through concepts with us, and it's design work, which the state law and the city code don't allow that to be done competitively.
Specifically for architectural purposes, there's a provision in our code that you have to select that scope of the work based on qualifications.
And part of the conundrum is, as you're pointing out, we don't know, can it be done with just kind of an interior remodel? Does it require a full rebuild? So this would get us through that kind of analysis and give us different options of different avenues we could go. So that would all come back to you for you all to decide, based on these 3-4 options, this is the path we want to go. If you chose to, at that point, we could go competitively at that point. But to get to that decision-making point, it's really purely design, which we have to do by choosing the most qualified.
Jan?
I'd just like to add, my experience as a consultant is, when I was proposing on projects, they were called RFQs, requests for qualifications. You pick the best qualified firm for the work. And at this point, as I understand it, it's really conceptual analysis
Correct.
that we are doing. And then we go to preliminary and final design.
And it is an RFQ at this point.
Right. And you would still go for qualifications on that. But after the conceptual analysis is done, will you come back to us with the cost estimates and
Yes.
design?
Yes, they
Maybe that's
will
what we need.
analyze kind of the needs, from a staffing perspective, and they'll give us different options. At one end, I think there's going to be, if you would choose to start from scratch, that would cost this amount and probably be a size building of X. And then on the other end of the spectrum would be, probably just to repair what you have as best you can. And we think there would be kind of 2 options in the middle there. So each of those would have kind of a cost and a pros and cons list for you all to choose which of the avenues you best liked.
And then at that point, if we think that the costs are higher than what we want to spend, we could also ask for other.
That's
bids.
correct.
That's right.
I think is that what you want?
That makes sense.
Scott?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's spelled out pretty clear. It looks like they're going to basically drill into the walls and see if this thing's got bones or not. And then it says comprehensive renovation. They're going to look at 4 options: comprehensive renovation, partial fulfillment renovation, necessity-focused renovation, or an all-new building. So it looks like we're going to get all 4 options.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Item C, consideration of IOP Connector Run contribution. Just give a quick history, and John, if I miss something, don't hesitate to hop in here. So IOP obviously has been a sponsor of the run since it started in '92, I think it was. So annually, we contribute, I think, around 7,500 rough numbers to be a sponsor. There are other sponsors, race cost. I mean, there's all kind of revenue that comes in. Once the revenue and the expenses settle, the bylaws of the run board, if you will, requires them to divvy the money out to selected nonprofits. Also in that bylaw is 10% of the proceeds come to the city of IOP and 10% of the proceeds go to this town of Mount Pleasant for support, just historically the way it's been. So when I went to this beneficiary check handout last year for the first time, which is happening this Thursday again this year, I was wondering why we were getting a check back from, as a city, and, went into the bylaws and talked to the treasurer, and John and I had a conversation, John's treasurer, at the Exchange Club, and wanted to see if we could not take that check back and just let it go back into the pot and go more money to the nonprofits. So essentially what's been happening, last year we gave 7,500 and we got back about 8,200. So we didn't really give anything from a sponsorship standpoint. So a lot of conversation with the powers that be at the Exchange Club, and it's just going to be easier, I think, if we leave the bylaws as they are and let the city decide year to year if they want to give the money back, for it to go into the pot, to go into the nonprofits for a bigger check. That's what I'm recommending that we do specifically this year. I mean, I would just as soon change the bylaws and do it forever, but if we need to do it every year, that's fine. John, anything to?
No, I think you've covered everything.
Okay. And I think this year there are 10 nonprofits, I think, roughly, that will have the pie divvied up. So a pretty significant check to some of those smaller nonprofit organizations, so.
How much did they raise last year?
I think it was around 90,000 last year, wasn't it? Net.
Well, last year was around 80. I think this year was a record year. It's going to be over
A little over
$100,000.
Yeah,
About 110 is what I
Yeah.
heard.
Yeah.
pretty significant uptick. So I will make that in the form of a motion that we, this year, the city, not accept its check, and it just goes back into the pot for dividing out into the selected nonprofits that the Exchange Club has chosen.
Second.
I'll second that.
I think, John, you seconded it? Yeah. Scott, you double seconded it.
Double second.
Other questions or thoughts?
Would this be in addition to us contributing, giving a contribution as well?
As a sponsor, yeah.
As a sponsor? So we will vote on a sponsorship amount?
No.
No, all this is
We just don't
about
get a
is
refund.
not taking back the cut from
Okay.
from this. Sponsorship falls underneath approval level, so. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item is a new item, consideration of replacement of patrol SUV in the amount of $52,000. This was SUV that was in a wreck recently. This was scheduled, Desiree, I believe, for replacement in 2025, so a little bit ahead of time, so this is unbudgeted. Obviously, we have received an insurance check of $14,000, rough numbers.
Yes.
So if we can have a motion in a second, we can get to more conversation.
Motion to approve. Second.
Desiree?
So as the mayor stated, this vehicle was involved in an accident. Our officer that was driving is okay. The vehicle, however, was considered a total loss by our insurance. We received a check of $14,000, as the mayor stated, for replacement. That vehicle had about 110,000 miles on it, was scheduled to be replaced next year. We need to replace it earlier. Right now, we don't have a spare vehicle. In the event another one goes down for whatever reason, we don't have, we wouldn't have a spare vehicle the officer is using currently. So we're requesting approval for this unbudgeted expenditure and proposing that we pay it out of Muni A tax.
Are we asking for 52 or 52 minus 14?
52 minus 14.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say a not to exceed 52, understanding that that cost will be covered, part of that cost will be covered by our insurance proceeds. The vehicle is usually, we get it at about 46, 48,000. There's just equipment that needs to be used. We will try to use some of the equipment from the existing vehicle that is still usable. But I think just for purposes of getting an approval, and not to exceed 52 would be consistent to the amount that we budget every year for when we need to replace a vehicle.
Other questions? Have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item, 7, boards and commissions report. Board of Zoning Appeals, no meeting in October. Planning Commission minutes are attached. Accommodations Tax Advisory Committee minutes are attached. Environmental Advisory Committee minutes are also attached. Item 8, ordinances, resolutions, and petitions. Second reading none, first reading none. First item under resolutions and proclamations, a resolution authorizing consumption of beer and wine only, amplified noise, and street closure at the Lavello Bike Ride on November 4th, 2023.
Motion to approve.
Waive
Second.
reading.
Waive reading.
Waive reading. Katie, you good with that?
I said second.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry.
Thank you. Sorry.
That's too fast.
Sorry. Questions, comments?
Mayor, if I
Yes.
may, just for the
Sure.
record, this event, as stated, will be on November 4th. However, the setup of that event will require partial closure of our municipal parking lot B, which is the large one on Front Beach. They are starting the setup of their tents on Tuesday afternoon. There will still be parking available, but part of that parking lot will not because of the tent. And then the road closure will start on Thursday, November 2nd. Only the southbound lane between 14th and Pavilion Drive will be closed through Saturday night, the day of the event. The Lovello team has been sharing a lot of information with our Front Beach businesses through the chamber, directly door to door, just to make sure people are aware. This is the 4th year that we do it, so I think people got the hang of it, I think. Our team has been meeting since early this year with the Lovello team just to make sure everything's ironed out. I believe a final review meeting is being held tomorrow afternoon, but we're all in good shape. The Lovello organization is paying for additional personnel for that weekend to support the road closures and the race, and I think that's about it, but just wanted to go through the road closure schedule.
Yeah, and I know
Is that?
our first year was good learning from business notification and such, so thank you all for
Is
that.
it the same closure as we did the last
Yes, ma'am.
couple of years? Okay, that's what I thought.
Rusty?
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's the same setup we did last year, and it worked out pretty well.
It did.
I mean, in fact, it worked out almost perfectly, I think, because we didn't have any businesses who were upset about it, because everything was coordinated very well. And
Correct. And I think
went
they've been
great.
invited to become part of sponsors, so a
Yeah.
lot of them are, participate in the event, so I think that was a good change from the first year.
And I would encourage anybody that can to come out. It's a great event. You know, we have a lot of fun out there that morning, so.
Weather looks good.
Yes.
Which is nice.
It's good, yeah. And all the proceeds go to the MUSC Hollings Cancer Center also, and it's, you know, a great cause that they're involved in.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Next item, we did last year, I think for the first time, a proclamation declaring November 16th, 2023 as World Pancreatic Cancer Day on the Isle of Palms.
Motion to approve.
Waive reading.
Waive reading.
I'll second. Second, thank you, Mayor. Any questions, comments? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Not a need for executive session.